the talk is about mistaken identity. And that's really all our human troubles are. It's just simply we somehow got the idea that we're separate from our own divine nature, and then we played that out ad nauseum. In every which way we played out this story of separation. But the journey itself is not useless. It really isn't. Because, when you look at a baby or a dog, their love, it's so pure, it's so unconditional. And yet they don't fully know yet what it is to be separate and broken and come back to wholeness. Then there is a different inner knowing, a different ripeness, a different wisdom, a different appreciation. When in relationships, when something has been broken and it gets mended with true forgiveness and true unconditional love, then the bond is stronger than it ever was before the rift. And it's the same with our journey. So, I could have actually called this talk also the art of suffering because I had become very good at that. I grew up in Germany with parents that went through World War II, and there was a lot of pain in the field, like Eckhart Tolle calls it, the pain body, the collective field in Germany. It was very heavy. And also there was very much violence in the culture and much guilt. And to work with that lineage, to work with that energy has been quite challenging, but it also has been very rewarding, especially in the last couple of years of my life when things started to shift for me out of the pain body into my true nature. And so I just want to share with you a few things that I discovered that are very helpful in that journey. Of course, each one of us has a unique pathway to back to that wholeness, back to the right kind of identification. When we identify with our essential true nature, there is not a problem in the world or in this universe. There really isn't. And then what happens is, my experience now is, which is all I can talk from actually, is I experience life in a relaxed state. I kind of sometimes wonder, where did all that fear go? The fear of the future, the fear of a war, the fear of fires, or whatever, and you name it. It was endless. It was PTSD, basically. And I go, where did it go? Because I'm no longer in touch with it. So there is a relaxed enjoyment of each moment, each being that I meet. And then when some challenge comes, so that doesn't mean that you don't have challenges, but when a challenge comes, I know how to meet it. And the key phrase is from Kelly Sammy, a wonderful lady. She says, breathe and don't resist. Breathe and don't resist. Because it's in the resistance to what is, in the resistance to what is happening, that the suffering is. We struggle so much with that. So that's why I read that beautiful quote from Sri Bhagavan: acceptance is letting everything come. Forgiveness is letting everything go. Love is letting everything be. Wisdom is letting all things arise, flourish, and release naturally. Awareness is restful attentiveness. And that restful attentiveness has no fear of the next moment. It just is here, right here. This is all there is. Let's just take a breath in together. Just feel that breath and out. And also feel the energy of the earth through this floor, through this building, nurturing us. And the energy of the lake and of all the trees, the rocks. Everything is connected to us and nurturing us. And that is where our true nature, our true identity is felt, in that connection with all of life. So our essential nature is basically blissful. That's how we are wired. And that's why there is so much chasing after drugs and alcohol and different things to try to reproduce that state of bliss, the natural state of bliss, because we've kind of lost the ability to feel that, because all these programs and all these false ideas of who we are and what life is all about have kind of become like a heavy overcoat, heavy layers on top of our true essential nature. So it's really about recognizing what is in the way. It's not changing and becoming any different than we are. It's just recognizing what is in the way, kind of like that sculptor with who sees a block of stone or a block of wood and he just chisels away until there is this beautiful piece of art. So we're chiseling away in the mind, and it's all in the mind. Everything, single thing is in the mind. We're chiseling away the false ideas of who we thought we were. And then what is left is our true essential nature, which is blissful. It's feeling the pulse of life. It's absolutely blissful, even when it hurts. And that's the part that we misunderstand. I used to associate pain, whether it was physical pain, because there was a lot of, like I said, violence in the family and culture. I used to associate physical pain and emotional pain was punishment. That became a program. Oh, yeah. So I had to see that pain is simply a sensation. So when you pinch yourself, you just feel a sensation, right? But if you have a program, oh, I got beaten or pinched when I was called bad and being punished, then it has a whole different heaviness and suffering to it. So we want to separate the pure sensation, the pure experience from the story that is attached to it, the program that has been locked into the mind. And the biggest key in all of it is to actually recognize, to be aware, just to be aware. Oh, I'm reacting this way. Oh, there must be a program running. Oh, it isn't me. That will eventually lead to freedom. So I want to do a little exercise together. Let's close our eyes and connect with the breath. Just really be aware of the breath moving in and out of your body, the airways, and be aware of the earth as well. And just by the instrument of your amazing attention, you can direct the awareness to anywhere in your body. You can direct it to a place of maybe discomfort, or you can direct it to a place of neutrality. It's like an explorer, neutral. You're just watching and see what's there, not evaluating anything. And then let's shift our awareness to that spacious presence that is all around us. And it's also within us, of course. So just let your awareness expand out into that spacious presence. It's invisible, but it's definitely here. And just take a look inside the body. That spacious presence is also inside every cell, spaciousness. And being aware of the breath. And now imagine that you live life free of the voices in the head that evaluate everything, compare everything, chatter away all day long, and sometimes all night long. Free of inner conflict, free of any kind of anticipation, either craving anything or fearing anything unwanted. Imagine you're just relaxed, meeting life with an openness, a relaxed welcoming, without any tension or fear. And if challenges come, we meet them with confidence. We don't premeditate what to do. We just simply know that in that moment, new solutions come when they're needed. We have confidence and relaxation. Just breathing and not resisting. And as we meet, even our own feelings, maybe you have a recurring negative feeling or something you call a negative feeling. How about we could meet those as well with curiosity and confidence and just say hello? What do you have to say? What if those feelings that we struggle so much with could be a way to have us be more compassionate, more wise, more all inclusive? So, one thing I notice is most spiritual seekers actually try to improve themselves constantly. But what they're really trying to improve is that false sense of self, the made up sense of self, that concrete sense of, oh, I am this person with these habits, with this makeup. And we try to improve that. But that's kind of like rearranging the furniture in the prison. And that's not what we want. Or maybe for a while we want that and it makes us happy to have a new car, a new house, a new relationship, a new job for a while. But ultimately, what we really want is getting out of prison. And the door is always open. It's just we're so used to the prison. So there's a story. A wild tiger was given to a zoo in America from another country, and it was kept in a very small enclosure. So the tiger paced in a figure eight way, just paced all day long. And then after many years, they finally realized, oh my gosh, we really need to give this beautiful animal a large place to roam. And so they let him out into this large place with forest and rocks. And guess what the tiger did? Found a corner and did that same figure eight pattern. And the reason that makes us so sad is because we are like that. We are like that tiger. We have become so habituated to our cage and to the pattern that was possible within that cage. And many of the patterns have started in childhood. And they got by the child's mind who evaluated a situation that was too overwhelming. It made a meaning out of it. And that meaning, if it was with the sense of shock and pain that couldn't be resolved, that meaning stayed in the subconscious mind. So we still carry that around with us. And so that is that figure eight pattern that we're still doing. But there's good news. With awareness, when we become aware that we have these programs running, we can actually engage our essential true wisdom, higher nature, our divine nature, and ask it for help. Because the self can't pull itself up out of the quicksand. So it does take that higher intelligence, but we have to ask. And that's the key. We are so habituated to doing things on our own. I have to fix this, I'm broken and I have to fix myself. Well, we can't, but we can start to be aware and see. And if we lose fear of that judgment, then it's really easier to see it. When you just let's make an intention right now. I will no longer judge myself. That's another program. That's another internalized voice from somewhere that you took on. You no longer need any judgment of yourself. Trust me, I promise, whatever you have done that you feel bad about, let it go now. It's a burden and you don't need it. You did the best you could in that moment with the programming you had. So how about all together we let ourselves off the hook? Would you be in on that? Show me your hand. All right. All right. Good. So let's just start a new slate completely today. So we don't have to fix it. Nothing is broken. We're just seeing what is there. So if you find yourself behaving in a way that is familiar and you kind of feels limited, just take a breath. Oh, let me see what's there. And then you can, if you just have a quiet moment. And sometimes it's not possible in that instance with other people interactions, but then after, whenever you can, sit down in a quiet moment and ask your holy to bring the wisdom of the situation, to bring more insights. And as we relax these patterns, we relax the brain, the mind, then actually much more of that picture can come in. You know, PTSD, shock trauma, is a way to take a snapshot in that terrible instance and it stays locked in. And we only see that. So they've done a lot of work with war veterans and people that have had a lot of shock trauma. And they are able to, with many different techniques, to open up the awareness, to get the brain synchronized, and to open up the awareness that there was more than just that. Yes, that incidence was there. We're not denying anything, but we're actually including. We're including it in a bigger picture, in the greater wisdom that you already are, that we have become. We have come a long ways, haven't we? A really, really long way. And so the other key is self-responsibility. So what a lot of us do, we fling our pain because we don't know what to do with it. We fling it out there into the world, onto other people. We project it. So there's a little story in my life that happened a couple of months ago. I had a lady come up to my property and she was going to do a session with me. I'm an EFT practitioner, but she does it differently. I wanted to learn how she does it. So I hired her to come and do that. And she came up and she got out of the car and she started yelling at me. And I go, okay. And my little child, my inner child, very wounded in that way, just like caved in on herself, you know. And she got lost and she got very upset about getting lost, but she blamed it on my directions. So she needed to do something with all that energy in her. So she just flung it onto me. And we often do that. And so I took some deep breaths. I knew I couldn't solve that in that moment. My stomach felt like it was punched. So we went down to the cabin and I said, you know, we have to start over because I don't feel safe with you right now. And I don't know if we can work together right now, but let's start over. And then I started to tell her that I actually used to behave that way too in the past, and that she was a really good mirror, and that I no longer want to do that. So she was showing me what I would like to release as well, you know. And so after we started over, I gave her a hug. So I felt really good about being skillful in that moment. But afterwards, I still had a residual. Whenever I thought about that incident, there was still that pain. And so I thought, okay, let's do some inner child work. So I asked my little 3-year-old, um, and maybe we can go through some slides. That one, yeah, let's show the next slide. So that is actually me at 3 years old. And I put myself into a scene where she wanted to be with the animals in the forest. She didn't really feel safe around people. So around the incidents with this lady, I asked my inner child, sweetheart, what would you like to do? What would you like to do in this situation? And she goes, put me on your shoulders. Then I can be taller than she. So I said, okay. So in my mind's eye, I put her on my shoulders and she was really happy about that. And then I said, what else would you like to do? What would you like to say to her? And in my dialect, I grew up in Germany with this heavy dialect. And in that very heavy dialect, she said, geh weg, du blöde Nudel. I'll translate. It means, go away, you silly noodle. And I started laughing. You know, I laughed so hard. It was just so spontaneous. It wasn't like made up some kind of, you know, it just was totally authentic and spontaneous. This younger part of my psyche got to express herself. And then what happened? Something very curious happened. I actually didn't feel pain anymore about the situation. I just I just laughed every time I thought about it. And then this is really important. a natural gratitude came to this lady and for this incident, because I realized how rich it was and how much I got a chance to do some inner healing and integrate. So it's about integrating these lost parts of ourselves. And so integrating that inner child and working with her instead of making her wrong and judging her. You know, when we act in a young way and we kind of like, our behavior comes out sideways, we judge it. But it's a child, a child that had reasons to feel the way he did. And so then I realized that's true forgiveness, because the tension resolved itself, and I became genuinely grateful to this lady and to this situation. And we can really apply that to pretty much everything, even the more difficult things. And always remember to bring in your holy. So one thing I do is I sometimes go back to when pain comes up. I'm no longer afraid of it. I know I can meet it in a wise way. And I sit with that child and I say, sweetheart, I know you are really hurting right now and you feel overwhelmed and you feel like it's never going to get any better because that's how you experience life. And I am so sorry. But there will come a time when we are happy and whole and we are enjoying our lives to the fullest. And your sensitivity and your pain will have become a gift. And that time is now. So I speak to the past, to the stuff that's stuck in the mind, the inner child. I acknowledge what was there. I don't say it didn't happen or, yeah, no, yes, here, let me hold you in that pain. And there will be more. There is more to this story. And then I collapse time because time doesn't really exist. It's all still going on. So I'm speaking the ultimate truth to finish it off. And that time is now. And so these separated parts in the psyche start to get incorporated and reintegrated into the family. And let's show the next slide. So this one is, I make myself soul portraits, I call them. So this is myself now, and then there is the little one is the baby, and then there is the little child in the back, and then on the right is the depressed teenager. Lost and depressed, where am I going to go in this world? I have no clue. And the teepees are for all these different aspects. One teepee, I invite rage, I invite guilt, I invite terror, I invite all sadness, grief, all the aspects of myself to move into a teepee. And we sit around as a family in a campfire in a lovely meadow. And so I basically welcome all these parts. And it isn't easy to do. So in the beginning, it's good to have a coach. So I've had coaching in the past. Now I'm able to do it on my own, and I'm able to help others with this. So it's become a very rich gift, this journey of integration. And I want to just read you a little, it's a poem by an anonymous author. Within this temple, there is a crowd. There is one of us who is humble and one of us who is proud. One who is sorry for its sins, another unrepentant, sits and grins. From much earthly care, I could be free if I could just determine which is me. You know, I think we all have what the psychologists call multiple personality disorder. You know, there's also this story from one of my teachers in India, a master in India. One of his disciples came to him and asked him, Master, I want enlightenment. I want to be awakened. And the master said, which one of you? There's a crowd inside. Because truthfully, there are aspects in us that don't want to be awakened. You know, I actually recommend you watch an old Star Trek movie episode from Voyager. It's called The Thaw. This is Captain Janeway, and they come upon a world where people were in stasis. They were frozen because they had to wait out some unfavorable conditions, and they had a computer program, and the computer program started to take over, and it didn't wake them up when it was safe to wake up how it should have. It actually kept playing their own fears, and they started dying from their own fears because the computer program became its own entity. And that is the perfect depiction of the egoic structure that we have built over lifetimes, probably. And so watch that movie. It's called The Thaw, and it's from the Voyager Star Trek series with Captain Janeway. It's a very brilliant depiction. And in the end, you know, he's fighting her. She's trying to figure out how to defeat him, this ego clown. They showed him as a clown without killing more people. And he, in the end, she said, "What does fear really want? It wants to be defeated, but it will fight until it can no longer fight." And so in the end, she said, "Well, you just won't exist anymore." And she said, "What?" He said, "What? I won't exist anymore?" That's what's actually the blockage. That identity that we have had for so long fears to be annihilated. It fears that it will be no longer existing. So it's fighting that with everything it's got, with every trick, and it becomes more subtle. So you have to watch, you know, you can become aware of the more obvious things, but there are also very subtle layers of that resistance in the mind. And we have to really be very watchful. But the good thing is, as you keep calling on your holy, on your higher self, it becomes more easy. But it's very polite. It will wait for you to ask. So you have to learn to work with that. And so another trick, you know, how I shared with you that I go back to the past hurts, the inner child. I also sometimes, when something comes up in this moment that is uncomfortable or painful, I bring in my, let's say, your whole evolved version, your the version of you that is complete and whole and has reached the end of its evolution, and it's just a Christed being. So I draw that in, and I say, I have that being say the same thing. Angelika, right now you feel pain and limitation, but there will be a time when you will be this. And that time is now. Do you feel that? I mean, it gives me goosebumps. It's true. Whenever I hear something true or speak it, I get goosebumps all over. And just quickly, because I think I need to stop soon, let's go to the next slide. We also work with dreams, when dreams can bring us incredible messages. So this was about fear. I was walking in a forest in my dream many years ago, and I heard something, and I turn around and there's a lion, and it just runs at me, and I'm getting so fearful. And as I thought, okay, I'm toast now, the lion stopped right in front of me and went back, and repeated that 3 times, and each time the fear got stronger. And the last time it ran at me, it didn't stop. It jumped over my head. And I almost woke up from the terror. And I turned around and faced the lion. And all the fear in an instant melted away. And it just became a love feast. We just embraced, we hugged. It was like my own beloved self. You know, we were just like ecstasy. There was ecstasy from a fear so intense. I thought I would die from it. It turned in an instant into ecstasy. So it was about, the dream was about facing my deepest fear, the fear of death, the fear of being mauled, the fear of attack, you know, and there are so many attack thoughts inside. And I had the feeling as I was walking alone before meeting the lion that I had lost something. And so after we had this love fest, we walked like this side by side. Uh, and then all of a sudden, the lion disappeared again and came back after some time and brought me back what I had lost. I never knew in the dream what it was because it wasn't an object. I only now know what it was I had lost. I had lost my identification with my true essential nature, with my true self. And I was stuck in the terror and the fear. And so this dream showed me that that can change just like this. It doesn't have to take time. Actually, the time is now. Let's just do that. Let's bring in this gesture. The time is now for me to be whole. Anything that arises is only for our practicing, training, to learn the human condition. We are divine beings. We are sovereign. And anything that happens is not because it happens to us, it's because our soul chose it. We consented. We forgot that. But we chose to open to everything that happens in our lives because it is perfectly unfolding for our higher good, so we can become whole and recognize what is really true inside, within and without. And as you can see, I'm very passionate about the subject and I could go on forever. So let's show the next slide. That I made this one because I wanted to show that freedom. Cut the strings, cut the ropes, cut the anchor loose, fly up. And then the next one is a soul portrait I made for, that's my mom. She passed away recently in Germany. I went there. And what happened is I turned all the grief and all the sadness and the sense of loss into creativity, making her urn, making the funeral myself, making the flower arrangements, just putting it all into creative. And I felt her presence. So I made the soul portrait. I just put all that energy into, not that I denied the grief, but I allowed it to integrate with the joy and the creative energy. And then the next slide is where I'm showing embracing wholeness. So I made myself into a yin yang symbol. You know, the darkness in me is in the light, and the light in me is in the dark. And they're like the yin yang symbol is merging. It's actually one thing. And then the next one is, that is how I imagine my essential self, you know, just beaming love and beaming blessings, beaming light, beaming truth, you know, just being. You don't have to become a saint for that. You don't. You can just beam your essential nature and it benefits everybody. And the last one, that is that is how I want us to live from now on. Just like that. Yeah. You know, relax, nothing is under control. There just isn't. And then that mouse, you think that mouse worries about yesterday or tomorrow? I don't think so. Yahoo! Life is good in this flower. So, all right. Well, I could talk your ears off about this. I could talk all day long. So let's take this into prayer. The experience of wholeness is that of being complete in each moment. Each moment is enough. One feels a sense of fullness and satisfaction, simply in being. Nothing needs to be done, yet all things are possible. One feels the joy of simply being with oneself. We are complete.